are enormous social gradients in well-being within our country. You know, people further down the social ladder do worse in terms of health, in terms of mental illness, more violence, more drug problems. A major impact on well-being introduced by the inequalities between people further up and further down the social ladder. But as well as that, countries with bigger income differences do worse overall. It's not just the poor who are affected by inequality, it's the vast majority of the population who have more of all these problems and suffer a worsening of health and so on. Also in terms of things like sense of community and contact with other people, that is so important for happiness. The data shows very clearly that in more unequal societies people trust each other less, community life is weakened, we have less to do with each other. I think there is a third connection though, and that is that the problem of overconsumption, consumerism in the rich countries, and the underconsumption, the shortening of life expectancy in the poorer countries, that overconsumption in the rich countries is driven substantially by status competition, which is intensified by inequality. In a sense, the biggest threat to moving towards sustainability is consumerism, and one of the ways in which we can rein that in, so we're less pushed around by worries about status and status competition, is to reduce the income differences between us.
Given a world right now and a sort of a political system in which money plays so much power, in which there's so much opposition to the ideas that you represent about greater equality and so forth from people at the top, what do you think are the best intermediate steps we can begin to take to reduce inequality and actually have that be politically palatable in a sense?
I think there are a lot of different ways. First, a major distinction is between whether you redistribute income after people have been paid through taxes and benefits, or whether you start off with smaller income differences between rich and poor before tax. I think we have to use both methods. But the weakness of depending on redistribution, on tax policies, is that those can so easily be undone and changed. A way of getting a greater equality more embedded in our society is to reduce the income differences at source. And I think that in a way the bonus culture, the runaway incomes at the top, which have made our societies so much more unequal in the last few decades, reflects a lack of democracy in our institutions. People at the top feeling they can do what they like, they don't have to account to anyone. And so instead of the CEOs getting in for instance, the top 300 American companies, instead of them getting 20 or 25 times what the average production worker got, as they did in the 1970s, it's now 200, 300, 400 to 1. A huge increase in those ratios, and the way to deal with that, I think, is to make our companies, our economic institutions, more democratic.
Now your work, what got you into this? I mean, what you were initially, and I guess still are, is an epidemiologist. You work in the field of health and these kind of issues. Am I right about that?
Yes, we started off looking at the large social class differences in health in Britain. The government had been classifying people by occupation and then putting those into social classes, and you find 5 or 10-year differences in life expectancy between manual workers and professional occupations. And in a way that seemed like a completely unacceptable effect of social and economic inequalities that most people did accept. So trying to sort out that, but then those social class differences in death rates made us aware of how extraordinarily sensitive health is to social and economic factors. And we moved then into thinking about the social determinants of health more widely, the social determinants of population health, you know, why one country is much healthier than another. And even amongst the rich countries, it's paradoxical that the US spends more on health care is richer than other countries, and yet does less well in terms of life expectancy than almost all the other rich developed countries. I think there's an extraordinarily close connection between health in terms of even death rates and measures of happiness and well-being. One of the big changes in our understanding of the drivers of population health in the rich countries is to realize how important psychosocial factors are. And by that I mean things to do with friendship, measures of how socially integrated, how many friends you have, quality of your relationships, suggest that friendship is as important or more important than whether or not you smoke to your survival over a follow-up period. You know, it's not a small wishy-washy factor, it's really a crucial development of health, determinant of health. Another part of the picture of these psychosocial factors influencing health is the quality of early childhood. The quality of nurturing and care, which casts a long shadow forwards to health later in life. And that seems to be something to do with the sort of tuning of stress responses in early childhood. Yes. So health and happiness are extraordinarily closely connected. You cannot improve well-being and happiness without improving health. They really are closely integrated.